And light speed, okay, people are still trickling in. How about answer and AMPIC, right? Anybody from Sumeda? And machineware. It looks like we may have to wait for 5-10 minutes more. The lunch got delayed, I believe. I know some of them have already come. We'll have to, I'll see how I can send out word so that they come. Okay, so please be patient for another 5-10 minutes. So my name is Venkatesh. I'm part of the organizing committee of the VLSI Design Conference here. I'm also a part of TI Hyderabad. I'm working in Silicon Labs, the semiconductor area. So today we are going to have some pitches from some startups in this area, and I'd like to welcome my colleague Sudeep on the stage. So he will come in and he will kick off the proceedings. We have some interesting points of view from some industry veterans and investors today, and we'll start with that. Okay, welcome Sudeep.
Yeah, thank you Venkatesh. Good afternoon all. I hope you had a good lunch. It's always an exciting to lead a startup forum. I was just looking up a few things about the startup and being an entrepreneur itself, right? There is something you chase in terms of, there's an essential, intangible something in startups, an energy, a soul, right? Which represents an individual, a group, where you are, inspiring people, trying to create something large in life, right? It's a privilege to be here today and welcome you all for this startup forum. My name is Sudeep. I'm the regional director for Synopsys sales and marketing teams in India. So I would like to call upon the key leaders here for today. I would like to introduce Srini Chandu Patla. I would like to read out a brief bio about him and invite him on the stage. Srini Chandu Patla is a serial entrepreneur, a startup evangelist, and angel investor. Srini is the co-founder of Manjira Digital Systems, a fabless chip design company. Previously, Srini held many senior executive positions in the US and India, responsible for global operations and corporate strategy. Srini has been supporting the Entrepreneur Development and Accelerator Program at TI, Hyderabad, NASCOM, CIE, T-Hub, and ISB. Srini is a mentor and an advisor for several startup companies. He is the Vice President of TI Hyderabad chapter. Srini, welcome to you, and can you be on the stage, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. I didn't know I was going to start right away, but anyways, it's never too late. So I was asked to talk about a couple of things. One is what do investors expect from startups when they're raising funding? That's one. And the second part is how the startups can be kind of guided or helped in the process of their journey. So we'll split the talk into two parts. The first part itself, actually, it's a huge topic. It could be a workshop by itself for a day or two. But I'm going to cover in probably 5 minutes or so, because we have other speakers as well who need to talk for the rest of the hour here. So what do investors expect, right? So I'll highlight a few pointers here which are valid for not just VLSI in general, but across the board. First thing I would say is investors always look for market size. And why market size is important, right? So from a startup's point of view, we think, our product is great, we have a great team, why does market really matter? For investors, the size matters because they have an investment thesis and they expect 5x, 10x, 20x as part of that. So it's basically ROI. So if the market size doesn't support your thesis or your expectations, no matter how good a product it is, or no matter how good your team is, they're not going to invest. Nothing wrong with the solution, nothing wrong with the team. So that's one. Second thing is the team itself, right? Team is very, very important for investors. So we can talk about the pedigree of the team, but what I would say is pedigree is always there. More importantly, they're looking for team which has good track record. What I mean by track record is whether this founder or founders, did they have an exit before? Is this the second startup, a third startup, or fourth startup, right? So they look at those metrics as well, and if they all are in your favor, obviously you'll get the check very soon. Another pointer I wanted to highlight is traction, right? They look at the traction of your startup in terms of a couple of areas. One is if it's a solution, product based, then where do you stand? Do you have just an idea validation and a PowerPoint, or do you have a pilot or a MVP or a prototype, or you already have traction with maybe one or two customers? So my experience is, again, I've been part of some angel networks and I've also invested individually in some companies. My experience is if you don't have customers and paid customers specifically and don't have revenues, I don't think most of the investors would encourage to write a check. The only people who would write a check are, again, as you know, friends and family, right, who will support you any step of the way or any day. So traction, again, you say that, I got an MVP, so why don't you give me your investment or your check? Then they probably will say, okay, this is great, but why don't you go get your first paid customer? Then come back to me and talk to me, right? So you get your first paid customer, then you think you're going to get the check. Even then, I don't think they'll write you a check right away. They probably want to see your plan for the next 1, 2, or 3 years in terms of how you want to execute on your vision. So they're also validating a couple of other things when they say that. What do they mean by that is, it's not just you're getting your paid customers and revenues, it's also validating your commitment, your seriousness, and your execution plan and capabilities as well. So net, I don't want to sugarcoat. So raising money is not an easy task, and raising money in hardware and VLSI-centric companies is even harder. However, if you have the right team, right market size, and right traction, you will get your funding. Okay, so with that, I'll move on to my next topic, which is how can we help these startups? So, as you probably heard in my profile, that I'm the Vice President of TI Hyderabad. So let me talk about TI Hyderabad as a platform for the startups here. So TI stands for the entrepreneurship, the Indus entrepreneurship, Indus entrepreneurs. And how many of you heard about TI? Oh, good. So I would say 60 to 70%. And recently we have done a major event in Hyderabad, as a matter of fact, right here in this conference center. It's the TI Global Summit. We called it TGS 2022. And it was a mega event where more than 3,000 delegates attended from all over the world. And TI itself is spread across more than 15 countries. And we have more than 55 chapters in the world. And Hyderabad chapter is one of the vibrant and active chapters as well. So what does Hyderabad TI chapter need to offer, right? So one is, again, the whole objective of Hyderabad chapter is to foster entrepreneurship. So that said, it will give you a platform where you can be a member of the TI family, and you will get access to more than 150 charter members. And when I say charter members, these are very senior members who've been there, done that. They probably have an exit, they're at the C-level executive positions for their own companies. They have a good network, and we can learn a lot from their lessons that, they made mistakes in their life. And another thing is we have mentors who can also handhold you, guide you, and help you in your journey to make your startup successful. So we have two people from TI Hyderabad here, Mansi and Sabia. So please reach out to them and see how you can become a part of the TI family. I would strongly encourage you to do that and get the right mentor, help, whatever guidance you need, even raising money, they can point you to the right angel networks, the right investors. So talk to them. There is a special offer right now for this conference if you sign up for it. So they can give you all the details about that. I would encourage to join TI Hyderabad, and I would probably see you all in the next TI event or so. With that, I'll call it a wrap. Thank you so much. Good luck with everything else.
So the way it has been structured is, yes, there were chairs put. I was supposed to call each one of them, but the way myself and Venkatesh aligned later was, we call each one because there is a presentation running in the background, and then, that's how the flow will be there. So the first will be the key mentors and the investors will speak. The second session will be the pitching session. And the last session is you'll get to do the round table with the investors and the key mentors here, which can be more personal discussion for the startups. Okay. The next in speaker line is Mr. Ajay Jain. Ajay Jain, I'll just read a brief bio about Ajay Jain. Mr. Ajay Jain has about 20 plus years of experience in both corporate and startups, and is a seasoned startup investor. He's a founder and managing partner of Silver Needle Venture Fund and Angel Fund that will invest about $250K USD in technology-enabled startups. The fund size would be around 15 million USD, and the fund has earmarked 35% of the capital for follow-on rounds. Previously, as a founding partner of HICC Consulting and IITH Seed Fund, he invested in 30 plus early stage startups. This portfolio has an impressive IRR of 47% over the past 5 years. He has an MBA from Indian School of Business and Master of Science degree from University of Arizona. He was a Vice President, Incubation and Scaling at T-Hub, India's largest and fastest growing innovation center here in Hyderabad. Previously to that, he ran an education startup in the impact investment space, which raised capital from Michael Susan, Dell Foundation, and Grey Matters Capital. Before his MBA, he was in the semiconductor industry with the likes of Intel, AMD, and Synopsys, working on microprocessor and set-top boxes. Ajay, welcome to you to this session. And can we run Ajay's presentation, please?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for giving me this opportunity, TI and VLSI. One, I think we are already running late, so I'll try to make up on that. The whole idea was to suggest, one, what is fundraising for hardware startups, especially in the Indian context, and why is it a bit tricky, right? Firstly, let me cover simply, I think Srini already mentioned some points. How do you do fundraise? Any startup, how does that do a fundraise? You need a strong pitch, and the pitch needs a story. I've seen many founders miss the story. I want to really understand why are you doing what you are doing, right? I mean, you're giving up jobs, you're doing something full time. I really want to understand that. The second thing most founders stay away from is the use of Excel to create a business plan. That is critical if you're raising money. We investors ask questions which only that Excel business plan can resolve. So please make sure that you spend time creating a business plan. Yes, business plans don't need to be stuck to, they change over time, which is fine. The more important thing is you have thought of those various scenarios, and when I ask you a question, you have an answer, right? At least you have an approach. That's critical for me as an investor, right? The other important point is the market size. I think it has been made clear that Among all the factors, market might be the single largest factor that might be driving the success of a startup, right? That might be the single largest across various funding, etc., right? So it's important to understand your market size. Today, people come up with slides on the TAM, given the population that we are today as a world, right? TAM is very easy to showcase. It's more important to tell me, okay, look, what is the market that you can really achieve from this entire segment, right? And that is where your thought process on how do you achieve that market. Again, each time I'm saying that it's the thought process that is important for me, for you to convince an investor. Again, one more thing that's mostly missed is the go-to-market strategy, like the sales approach. Mostly here, we lack that ability to showcase the go-to-market in a good way. And I think we need to improve a lot in that space. I have seen a lot of founders not take that and do not have correct responses for a sales approach. Finally, the team. The last point had to come in as an animation, but it did not. So yes, a good product is important. But as you see, I'm putting it lower in the whole scheme of things because many entrepreneurs believe that the product is the game changer. It need not be, right? A good product is important, but it's how you present, how you sell, and how you decide the future of the company is more critical, right? So the product, for example, for me as an investor is a black box mostly, right? I'm seeing, okay, how are you getting things in and how are you getting things out and making money out of it. So now, I don't know so in India specifically, right, we do not have enough success stories to showcase the hardware story, right? And hence, we investors are a little wary of getting into that space, right? I'm not saying things are not improving. I'm just saying the reasons why hardware investments have not reached the stage that it should have for a growing startup ecosystem like India, right? The other obvious issue is the capital requirements. You do require huge capital for most hardware-related startups, and that's an issue that investors again think twice before getting into. We already have safer alternatives. The fail-safe for a hardware versus a software might be difficult, right? I mean, I'm more comfortable thinking even if a software fails, the loss is a little less and I can make out some money from a salvage value. But that might not be true for a hardware startup. The ecosystem in general in the hardware space in India is weak. Again, places like these, events like these would definitely help that a long way. But in general, the ecosystem is still developing and we need a lot of trust to improve the ecosystem. And that goes with the business and technology intersection. Again, this is a great place, lots of corporate here. But when I look at the West, the intersection is much more regular, right? And hence the ecosystem is much better. Education institutes also, we need a lot more in this space to kind of, obviously if I see the salaries of most semiconductor professionals, it's obviously in the higher bracket. And hence their alternative or their ability to leave a salaried job and start a company is much, I mean, their loss is much bigger than an average software salaried person. So in general, it's riskier, the hardware startups, and hence investors are a little wary of it. But things are definitely looking positive. Especially some of the segments like aerospace, etc. Things are looking much more positive than where we were. There is, as I said, ecosystem is improving. The government is really pushing hard on this space, right? And talent is also willing to take the risks. It's very important that the talent is willing to take the risks. I think that's where startup founders in India in the hardware space find it difficult to scale. Right? That's a big challenge. Some of the other moves that can really help in my opinion, right? The education and corporate partnerships, this is true across every segment, but more true in the semiconductor industry. I think this has still not reached the place where it can really support the ecosystem much better. We do need dedicated accelerators / incubators. There are a few, but still we need a lot more. Today, a startup, hardware startup, usually looks at Southeast Asia or the US for such support, and we need some things within the country. International partnerships, again, a very important point. So with that, I think I thought there would be a Q&A, but this is fine. So I think those are my thoughts. Thank you again, and happy to discuss some of them offline. Any questions that you have, sorry. Happy to take them, and then, Srini asked what's the average ticket size of Silver Needle Ventures. So Silver Needle Ventures would invest typically about 2 to 3 crores per startup early stage, and then we would come in to do further rounds of about 8 to 10 crores. So we would back the startup for at least 2 to 3 rounds further. Right? That's how we look at things. So we are in it for the long haul.
Yeah, hello sir. Actually, my question is that, for example, a set of research is already done and the idea is clear about the R&D kind of products also, let's say. So do you invest in that kind of things also?
With Silver Needle Ventures, we would come in once you have revenues. That's how we would come in. In some of the cases, which is deep, like let's say hardware or life sciences, we might take an exception, but that's really an exception and we'll have to go deeper. But anyone doing what you're saying, I would suggest you should be more with the educational institutions, get something there and then move ahead from there.
Have you already invested in any hardware startups in India or abroad?
We have invested in one IoT-based startup. So kind of right now where we are is 30% hardware is what we are okay with right now, where we haven't seen anything which excites us away from that. So we invested in an IoT-based startup which has a faster turnaround time and efficiency. And though the team, I come from the I am a semiconductor dropout, so I don't claim I know much now after 10 years of it. But the team has the ability to evaluate startups. As I said, Indian ecosystem is still not ready for the takeoff, but definitely aerospace and defense tech is something that we are keen on. So those are exceptions, and that's because of the segment that it is. All right. Yeah, then thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ajay, for your valuable insights. I hope this is helpful for the thinkers of the startups and also the startups who are here. Now I would like to call upon Mr. Shashi Reddy. I would like to read a brief profile of Mr. Shashi Reddy. Shashi Reddy has 30 plus years of experience in wireless and embedded software industry and has worked in companies like Qualcomm, Skyworks, Northern Telecom, Sony, Intel in US and India. He is currently heading Qualcomm Hyderabad Design Center in development of embedded wireless products. Shashi was instrumental in setting up the Indian Design Center for Skyworks Solutions and later for Qualcomm in Hyderabad. He helped start the Qualcomm Hyderabad Center in 2004 and grew it close to 5,000 plus engineering operations, working on development and validation of wireless platforms which power mobile, tablets and other wireless and connectivity devices. Shashi Reddy, I would like to call you up on the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. So being from Qualcomm, I thought I should start from 5G and wireless. So I know most of the other speakers must have talked about how to raise funds and how do you get money, and obviously that's the most important thing. But I was thinking I would like to kind of deviate a little bit and see like what are the different disruptive technologies which are kind of evolving or are already there in the last few years, and what's the kind of new ideas or whatever ideas you have can have better user experiences, better products made out of those those devices. So one of the thought or one of the thing we are really looking at in Qualcomm and across different companies and other smaller companies which we kind of work with, both from our Qualcomm Ventures as well as some of the startups which we are funding. What we are looking at is not just 5G plus, but looking at what we call the 5G plus AI. So I think these are two different disruptive technologies, nothing really connected between the two if you look at them. 5G is more a connectivity fabric, and AI has been there kind of replacing the intelligence of what human minds can do. So that's two different technologies, or two different disruptive technologies which have evolved, and the integration of two is what we have been looking at, and how do we do that. And within Qualcomm we talk about it as wireless internet or wireless intelligent edge devices. So I'll go more into those details, but that's kind of what I would like to talk about a little bit, and what are the ideas which we think can be looked at to use these technologies as well. This is the intro slide. Every 10 years there has been a new generation of wireless technologies, all the way from the 1G, which was an analog, to not going too much into the details of that, but where we evolved, and right now where we are at 5G. If you look at 3G to 5G, it was more about mobile broadband. And 5G, I would say, is a little more different, and not little more, a lot more different. And I would talk what's the... So if you look at 5G, it's not just increasing the broadband aspects only. It's not like increasing the data speeds only. It has low latency built into it, the broadband aspects built into it, and also the low power and narrow band aspects built into it. So looking at all the requirements for different industries, this new generation has been evolved. So we have the mission critical services, as well as enhanced mobile broadband, as well as the internet, the IoT the platform. So this is kind of brought into those requirements. And then looking at, there are different bands. There are existing sub-6 bands, and there is also millimeter wave bands. If you look at the millimeter wave, there is a broader, where you can have broader, not going to the technical details, but you have a higher bandwidths and more data could be kind of transferred, and then you can switch back to a narrow band and then do things like an IoT device. It could be an energy meter, or all the way to something where you need a huge data like an XR. So everything, it has kind of an inherent built technology so that you can kind of support the use cases from all the way from very narrow band to a very high bandwidth devices, as well as low latency and which needs mission critical applications. So that's the quick about 5G for folks who are new to this. Okay, so I'll skip this. That's kind of, I talked about it. So as I talked about, 5G and AI are two very disruptive technologies. Well, each one kind of revolutionized the industries and brought in new experiences. So 5G enhances the speed of other technology, integration of other technologies. So when you have a 5G connectivity fabric, you can kind of bring in different technologies faster, connect them faster because of the broader, the higher data speeds and stuff. Whereas AI, for example, in a nutshell, kind of replace some of the intelligent or the decision-making process we have as a human being, and then and also do a lot of repetitive tasks or more intelligent aspects. So combining these, we are kind of trying to look at how do we bring more edge devices which get connected to the cloud and do a lot more processing here. So I think one example what we look at was, you look at these security cameras, just kind of give a very high-end, very high-level security camera. One of them, you look at it, is very dumb. You just have a camera there, and then everything is kind of recorded, fed back to the cloud, and then the decision is made there, whether something is going wrong or something is happening, and then the alarms or whatever has to happen is followed from there. Whereas the other side of it is like you have intelligence built into those security cameras where it can only trigger any messages back only if there is some movement there, or if there is something which is out of the norm, which is happening there. And then one step above, it could be like it can also start processing whether these people who might be coming there are from some trespassers, are they part of your family, or they somebody, who you know. So I think that's kind of what you can start building into it. So I think, how do you move a lot of the intelligence which is being kind of processed in the cloud down to the edge? I think that's kind of what we are kind of looking at, and how do we enable that? So like I said, this is, past is all cloud-centric AI, and then how do we move towards? Now I would say today we are looking mostly as with more, most of the devices having more compute power in some of these smartphones or most of these edge devices. Plus they are also less power hungry. You can start doing a lot more AI processing there, more AI into those devices. So you start doing more partially distributed AI now. A lot of the training happens in the cloud, but the inference is being loaded there. A lot of things can happen on those devices. I think that's kind of what we are looking at. And I think going into the future, what we look at is distributed learning over the wireless. Having 5G as the kind of a connectivity fabric, we can have that distributed between the devices, the cloud, the edge cloud, as well as across it. We don't have to do the training of the AI in the cloud, but also move that into into devices, into the edge cloud, as well as a lot of the training can also be done on the device itself. I know this is a very compute intensive. That's the reason we have been doing it more on the cloud, and only the AI inference is happening. So the only way we can look at it is bring that distributed learning by moving some of that. I think the next picture, can show that. The next one shows how we can bring the state of the art. Looking at that picture here, you see that AI model is distributed into multiple devices, and each device collects data. So there are a lot of advantages to it, because it can be more personalized, more security, and then you don't have to pump in all the data into the cloud, and it can also be more personalized in there. And it also helps in having a distributed computing, which can use a lot of the computing power of many of those devices and do that. I kind of oversimplified the aspects, but just kind of giving you that there's a huge, between marrying these or integrating these two technologies, we could have many aspects, both hardware, software, and systems built around it, and there are a lot of new devices and new services, new user experiences which can be derived from these aspects. So that's kind of what the thought I wanted to bring it up. If you look at 5G, there are lots of them. You look at these are the new mobile experiences. Most of you must have seen there, all the way from connected vehicles to mobility to rich user content and things like that. And having trouble with this. And then, basically, if you look at it, it's the smart cities, industrial IoT, obviously this mobile devices, the automotive, many of those many of those new class of devices which used to be mostly mechanical, mostly very unintelligent devices where a lot of human intervention is happening, those can be brought in, put more AI into that, and bring in a lot more intelligence into it, and then using the 5G connectivity fabric, a lot of those data can be transmitted across, a lot more intelligence can be kind of distributed across these different devices or aspects. So I think that's kind of what I was looking at. I mean, what I would like to kind of bring to you. I mean, when we look at a lot of these startups, or a lot of it in Qualcomm Ventures, these are some of these companies which we have been looking at. I mean, obviously, bringing in the technologies are existing, but obviously the use cases or new deep tech algorithms which people can bring in, whether it can be in VR or AR, VR, or it could be in some of these very high intelligent IoT devices. So those are kind of things which we are really looking at. Smartphones, I think it might have come to a point where it is, a lot of those are already kind of there, but I think we are looking at other aspects into automotive. I mean, so I think that's where the new generation of products and services will evolve, and that's kind of the thought I would like to kind of leave here, and wanted to quickly bring those aspects to you, and want to end this here. Thanks for the opportunity to be part of this startup session. Any questions, please do so. I mean, are we on time, or is that okay?
Hello. Thank you for the great presentation. I just had a small question related to, you've talked about the trend wherein the future could be training and learning on edge devices themselves.
Right.
But over the course of this conference, we've also looked at how exponentially quickly the learnable parameters in our models are increasing. So what do you think about finding the balance in these seemingly digressing trends?
True. I think as the devices get more, I mean, there's more and more compute power going into the edge devices. I think there are, and then each one of us have multiple of those devices, because as we go into it, I mean, if you look at each of our homes, we are not having one device anymore. There are multiple devices we have. I think we can have those. I mean, if there is some way to connect all the computing power there and be ability to kind of use that computing power, I think there could be a lot more which could be pulled into the edge. I feel that doing all that in the cloud is I would say a little more old-fashioned. I think the trend is moving towards getting it closer where the real data is existing, and analyzing that, training that, learning of that should happen more and more at the edge than at the cloud. Whether it is an automotive, whether it's an IoT device, more of the learning should be really happening there. I think there are definitely these devices have some limitations, obviously, the power, the thermal stuff, the computing power itself. I think with time, I think those things really are coming down. If we can do a lot more with lower power and higher computational things can be done at the edge, I think that's quite possible. I think the trend is definitely towards that. I think that will also help a lot more startups, in my view. I mean, cloud is managed and done by a very few players. This is more, I feel, a democratization. A lot more can be brought down, and a lot more algorithms can be built, a lot more devices can be built by smaller players and startups, and is what I would really feel that.
There are edge AI efforts are increasing. Is there any practical efforts where most of the times I may need a threshold detection, and I may need a decision matrix, and have a processed, filterized information to the main data source, or maybe software computation in cloud or any platform, whatever I have. A centralized gateway or some other field, I can take it up. So we may need to change the theoretical paradigm of cloud-based AI field, and we may need to define new area of how a edge AI should be, with a power sensitive architectures. Is there any effort that direction going on, or whether we can provide something?
I don't know if there is any standardization on that, but I think, at least I'm not aware of it, but I think it's more an evolution. I think depends on, how your algorithms are being done and what needs to be done in cloud and what needs to be, I think it's more like moving from a central place to a more distributed way. Can it be like some part of it in the cloud, some part of it what we call edge cloud, which could be a router in the house, and some of it in my smartphone, right? How do I distribute that and what do I do in each of that is typically derived by the, derived by how we do that, how do we distribute it, and depending on our smartness of the company which does it or who does it. I think that's where the challenge and it's what I showed is a very overly simplified it, but the challenge is how do we kind of distribute, how do we do that, what are the things and what kind of devices can be evolved. Doing a very, I feel bringing in a very dumb IoT devices is not the real, anybody can do it. The threshold is very, very low. You've heard that hardware devices is difficult because, if it is very dumb, it can be done in cheaper somewhere else. I think adding a systems part of it, more and more intelligent edge is where you can really differentiate. Otherwise, there's no differentiation. Because if you are talking about a small IoT devices which you are putting in a microwave to tell at the temperature sensor, it can be done in cents in Taiwan or China or somewhere else. How do you differentiate that, right? I think that's kind of where you will really look into. Okay, I think looking at the time, I'll stop here. Thank you all, and thanks for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Yeah, in the age of talking to machines, 5G autonomous, autonomous driving, and medical electronics, transforming the medical industry itself, 5G and AI changing the game. Thanks for the insights, Mr. Shirreddy. Yeah, so we have a few exciting startups here, right? Before I call upon the architect of this startup forum, Mr. Venkatesh, I just want to read out the name of the startups who will be doing the pitching. Etsol Biomid, just raise your hand and, okay, great. And NU Design Automation, Wasbeam Private Limited, Syrup Solutions Private Limited, Syrup, okay, thanks. Rapture Innovations Lab, Vanix Technologies, Lightspeed Photonics, Answer Robotics, AMPI CQ Private Limited, Sumedha IT, and Missionware GmbH. These are the companies, total 11 companies who will be doing the pitching session today. So I would like to call upon Mr. Venkatesh Narasimhan, who is the architect of this, VLSI Startup Forum. Each one of you in the startup maybe, you would have already spoken to him. I just want to give a brief about him. He's a Senior Director of Engineering at Silicon Labs, a leader in wireless IoT semiconductors. He joined Silicon Labs through its acquisition of Red Pine Signals that developed wireless chips and modules. Previously, he was in another semiconductor startup called Paxonet Communications. His areas of expertise are wireless systems, semiconductor, and IoT. He has contributed to IEEE standards and holds 22 US patents. He volunteers for the IEEE and is a charter member of TI Hyderabad and mentors startups and students with entrepreneurship on their minds. Venkatesh, welcome on the stage.
Yeah, good afternoon and thanks so much, Sudeep. Yeah, so we just heard from Shashi about how 5G can actually do so many things. So one of the things that we learn about technology-based startups, so we are all, I believe, engineers here, and we are all trying to do something in the area of current high technology innovation. One of the ways in which startups can actually, do something remarkable is to catch a technology wave. And today 5G is a technology wave. It can, you understand the technology and then you can figure out this was never done before because it was not possible. Today it's possible. So let me be the first to create that application which will use this underlying technology and bring it to people. Artificial intelligence was an area of interest in the 70s and 80s. We used to work on it, we used to call it expert systems and so on. It was not technically feasible to create and do things in real time back then. Now we can. So look at 5G and technology trends that are happening around, and you can create a new innovation, which maybe you'll be the first to create that application using the technology. Yeah, today we've heard about, from the venture capitalists, from the investors, we heard some of the technology sides. And now, I would like to give some case studies about how startups that I've been associated with, that I was part of, or I have been mentoring in the areas of semiconductors and embedded systems. So embedded systems is a generic term, which is an electronic system with hardware and software in it, and interfaces to the outside world, which also has some software in it. But most of these embedded systems are today connected and therefore are called IoT systems. We've heard from investors that we will invest in you, but show us the money, show us the revenue. So when you are a semiconductor startup, you have a great idea for a chip. Maybe it's a specific chip meant to process certain types of sensor data. Maybe it's a specific chip which can do something 10x, 20x, 30x better than something else, like something that you can monitor with a battery for 10 years, where that previous system was, would have to have the battery replaced every few months. Maybe it's an ultra-secure chip which can actually work in the post-quantum world. You heard about that also. Maybe it is a chip that can do something that processes data so that there is a certain amount of intelligence that it already includes, like edge intelligence. It doesn't matter. Whatever the chip is, from the time you conceive of it, you develop it, you tape it out, you get it back, you test it, qualify it, and then you have prototypes, you try it out, you look at reliability, and then start shipping in large numbers so that you get revenue, is a minimum of 2 years and a minimum of 50 crores. And no Indian investor really is going to give 50 crores for an idea, or an idea that is progressing along the line of fruition. Then they ask, where is the customer, where is the money? It is always possible, of course, if these founders have sufficiently strong credentials, sufficiently strong linkage with the Qualcomms of this industry, or large companies. So large companies, Cisco, Qualcomm, a lot of them actually fund startups to a tremendously large extent. Many of them, of course, are people who are employees who come out and say, I will do this. And then the company says, yes, you take the risk, you do it. If you like it, we will buy you back. And then they get the millions of dollars of funding to start with because they have the credentials already. The Indian startup ecosystem needs people who have looked at technology, who have delivered technology, and then have taken the plunge saying that my current company is no longer supporting my ideas. I need to go out. Like Bob Noyce, who founded Intel, he came out of Fairchild saying that Fairchild is not giving me stocks, it's not letting me spread my wings. I am an expert, I have learned enough, let me start a new company. We do need something like that, because in the hardware world, there's nothing like learning from experience. However, companies also try their best to retain those innovative key employees with them. And the incentive to jump out and take the plunge and do a startup may not be sufficiently strong. We hope it will change, but it is there. But the majority of the entrepreneurs here have the energy, the zeal, maybe some idea, and the confidence that they can do it. And investors like to see that. But investors also want to see money. It's not new, it's always been the case. So what can semiconductors, we'll talk about semiconductor startups first, and then we'll go to the IoT or embedded systems area. So what can semiconductor startups do to kind of make things happen in this kind of a scenario? Well, firstly, we have a market where there are startups in the semiconductor area. There are multiple business models. One of the business models is to train people and have them placed. It's like a
people contracting area. Lots of companies have grown very big just doing that. And it doesn't take a lot of investment to start training and start placing people in the various aspects of semiconductor design, verification, back-end, and so on. So that's one way to start, but you don't want to continue down that path. The next step after doing that is to offer design services. That means that we are not offering you trained manpower, but we have trained people who can design for you, give us a spec. We will take the design, we'll make the design, we will make it meet whatever specifications you want, and then we will deliver it for you. We are like an outsourcing partner for you to help you to do things without you having to hire people, but you don't even have to worry about how to do it. We know how to do it, we will do it for you. So design services are also there. That also takes less investment and less barrier to entry. And then the third is to sell semiconductor IP. Semiconductor IP are building blocks of semiconductors. A lot of semiconductors today, especially in SoCs, are composed of a lot of blocks of IP. They can be connectivity IP, they can be computing IP, they can be peripherals, they can be processing elements. Some of them can be analog, some of like power management units or A to D converters. Some of them can be all digital. I mean, PCI interfaces, new interfaces so like serial SerDes kind of interfaces, high gigabit serial interfaces. Some of them could be hardware accelerator blocks for AI or ML, algorithms okay, that are implemented, I mean, matrix multipliers and other vector operations in hardware. You can become a semiconductor IP player. And you know, many companies today, including Synopsys, from where Sudeep is, they sell a lot of IP, which makes the job of semiconductor design easier for others. But then you also have to validate IP. That means you have to create IP, you have to tape out a chip to validate it to see that it's working. So making and selling an IP also requires a year or more with sufficient money to get a chip out and then test it out. Finally, you have a complete chip company which does we have a product which can be sold in the market. That is the dream, because everybody wants, chip companies, everybody wants to be growing to an AMD or an Intel or a MOS chip or Qualcomm or my company Silicon Labs. It was also a startup long time back. So how can startups actually find the best fit for them? Do they have sufficiently strong connections with the industry so that they can get a jump start? Then they can leapfrog one or two steps and go directly to the IP part or directly to the semiconductor part. Okay, otherwise they have to start from where they are. The risk is less, and they also have to build expertise. They also have to guard against the big semiconductor players who may poach their people. Okay, every time you build somebody's expertise, you have to be wary. But it is a valid thing. So today's in the startup forum, I'm sure we are going to see a mix of everything. No business model can be dismissed as unviable. Every entrepreneur has the ability to make it happen. Now, the two startups in which I have been involved, okay, one of them was Paxonet Communications in Pune. We actually started out not even by outsourcing people, but saying that we will be a local trainer and distributor for a new class of products at the time called FPGAs. We will learn about FPGAs. We feel that there is a market in India. We will train Indian design houses, especially the defense and public sector units, how to use FPGAs and how they can design better systems. And we'll start from there. Very low barrier to entry. And then we started developing IP. And then we started doing a complete custom chip for one of a customer in the US. They paid us, we designed a chip for them, we taped it out for them. The chip is still in the market after almost 30 years because of the telecom area, the standards don't change there. Okay? And then we made our own chip and eventually it exited. And then the next company, Red Pine Signals, which started in 2002, at that time we caught a wave. The wave was wireless networking. Wi-Fi or wireless LAN was being designed at that time, defined by the time by the IEEE. We joined, okay, I was part of the IEEE different groups which helped to define the standards, and then the industry came together and started something called the Wi-Fi Forum. We became part of it, and that's another great tip for a startup, is to be part of an industry forum so that you can get to know what everybody else is thinking about the first, even before it is in the press or anywhere else. So we joined the Wi-Fi Alliance. We looked at how interoperability is an important part of wireless communication and how our chips can be made interoperable. When we looked at the technology wave, initially Wi-Fi was only for laptops and cell phones. Okay, we knew that it's a matter of time before they actually come into every single device. So we were the first to actually make a Wi-Fi chip specifically for embedded systems, which meant that it has to be very power efficient. So we came out with the world's lowest power Wi-Fi chip back in 2008, and after that we really didn't look back. Competition is always very tough. When you try to sell to different markets, the dynamics are different. The Japanese, who used to make a lot of the world's electronics equipment earlier, now maybe they are still, but not to that extent, would like to buy from Japanese. So we had to find a Japanese partner. That didn't happen. So eventually, all devices became connected, and the demand for IoT took off and did not miss any single prediction. In fact, every single estimate has been broken in the Wi-Fi world so far in terms of its growth. So we went through all of that, and then we got acquired by Silicon Labs, who had a hole in their portfolio in terms of low power wireless, which we filled. That's another thing that we all startups have to do, is to see, are you developing technology that is not there with somebody? And IoT has a lot of such opportunities. Today, when you have a smart light bulb at home, you have a smart fan, maybe a smart light bulb is from Wipro, the fan is from Atomberg, then you have a smart plug, maybe from Philips, you have a smart refrigerator from Samsung, maybe a smart TV from LG. Now all of them need to be controlled by apps from different companies. You cannot open your phone and be able to program a sequence saying that as soon as I turn on my TV, then the main light should go off and a smaller light should come on. You cannot program your refrigerator to say that as soon as my alarm clock goes on, okay, you must start something. Or as soon as my alarm clock goes on, then you must start my coffee maker. Everything is from different companies. So the industry came together last year to bring out a standard called Matter. Matter is a way in which all home automation devices will talk the same language. And with that, as a startup, you can actually create a great home automation system without worrying about whether you have to develop all the hardware yourself, or can you integrate hardware from any manufacturer, whoever may be making the most efficient and whoever may be making the most, low power or cost efficient way this product out there. So when you have a new standard coming out like Matter, every startup, every entrepreneur should have their ears picked up and say, hey, this is very novel, this is cool, can I do something out of it? And can I be the first in market with a great new system? There is a company called Tuya in China, okay, which started making the Wi-Fi and wireless Bluetooth devices and so on. Then they found that the revenues are much higher in the software world. So then they created a cloud framework which people can use to create an automated IoT system. So a lot of smart lock manufacturers today use a Tuya framework. So they decided to move from one kind of a product, which is a semiconductor or the module level device, to a software and analytics framework which can be used by the market. So there are all of these opportunities, and we need to be, startups need to be able to convince investors that they have the idea, they are catching the wave, they need to show intermediate points of success, saying that this is the right path. They need to say that this is my prediction, and go back 6 months later and tell the investor, we predicted this and it's happening, and build their credibility that way. So they need to be in tune with what the market is. Then embedded system, if you have, for example, a device for the home that you want to do, a smart lock, which really works well for Indian conditions and makes it easy for people to install, you still need to, it will still take about 2 years of work before it hits the market. You need to make the electronics, you need to write the software, you need to create 3D housing, you need to test it, you need to then get if you're doing plastics, you need to get a mold. Molds cost like 30, 40 lakhs. And then and before you can sell for the price that the market will accept, you need to build maybe 1,000, 10,000 devices. When a new Apple phone comes, the day one you have like 50 million orders. And then they start shipping. Now imagine that they have built 50 million phones and kept it in their warehouse before they allow customers to buy it. And you know how much 50 million phones would cost. Right, of course, Apple sells their phones for 7 or 8 times the actual cost it makes them. But still you can imagine how much money they would have needed to have before you can make the first dollar in the market. And the same thing with all hardware startups also is that before you can sell in a price point which the market will accept, you need to start mass production. Your prototypes are maybe 10 or 50 times the cost of the end product. So keeping all of this in mind, what I have seen from embedded system startups and so on is to be able to have a mix of business models where they can have a hardware product, where they can have a software-based subscription, where they can, in the beginning, get hardware from other OEMs and white label it, brand it with their name and start selling it with the add-ons that their unique things are. And year on year go to a cost down approach where they build more and more of that hardware themselves. It's a classic case of what they call make versus buy. Should I make it or should I buy it? You start with buying as much as you can. You're not going to have high margins, but over a period of time, move more towards make so that your margins keep increasing. Okay, so it's all very, involved, and it helps a lot to have somebody who has burned their fingers to talk to. So you can never underestimate the importance of learning through mistakes. The only thing more important than learning through a mistake is to learn from somebody else's mistake. So keep your ecosystem alive. You cannot sit in a lab and come out with a product 2 years later. You need to be constantly in touch with the ecosystem, with others, and organizations, like you have TIE, you have India Electronics and Semiconductor Association, which is conducting this event. Everybody has people who want our ecosystem to grow and are always willing to provide their inputs, efforts, and help make things successful for you. All right, so that's what I had to say. And the startups are going to come now. We are eagerly waiting to hear from you all and choose one of you as a best pitch award today. All the best to all of you.
Okay, we'll take another 5 minutes to start the pitching session. We have a jury, Mr. Shashi Reddy, Ajay Jain, and Srini, trying to discuss the evaluation metrics. So as I mentioned last, we have 12 startups. It's not 11. I just realized there's also B Square Technologies which got added to the list. Okay, thank you. So we'll get started with the pitch, Venkatesh. Now we'll be starting the pitching session. The first one to go is HICC Biomed. I'll be not introducing this entire company. I will leave it to you. So we have 12 companies. So roughly we have calculated like 4 minutes, which makes it like 50 minutes, right? And we try to fit it in the 1 hour session, right? So I would like to call upon HICC Biomed as a start.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. Thanks for being here, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to present amongst so many of you. So I'm just going to start off with saying that HICC Biomed is a bioelectrical device startup. We are basically using embedded systems technology as an application in the healthcare industry. So the founding team, this is me on the left. I'm Dr. Saiti Kandala. I have a PhD in electrical engineering from the University of Colorado Boulder, and my specialization was in the field of bioelectromagnetics. And my co-founder is Satyanaran Kandala, who has like 30 plus years of experience in IT development. And so why we do what we do? So one of the first things that we've noticed during our market study in the medical industry is that there is less affordable healthcare products to improve patient outcomes, and this is one of the first goals that we will be concentrating on as a startup. And also the medical device industry is going to reach $700 billion by 2029, just FYI. So the first device that we are developing is a temporary pacemaker. So what is a temporary pacemaker? It is for cardiac pacing during open heart surgeries. And we are developing this in co-creating this with Narayana Hridayala Hospital, Bangalore. And I'll talk about the present devices in the industry. So presently, there are multiple temporary pacemakers in the market. And what is different that we are developing at HICC? So one of the biggest companies, of course, in this field is Medtronic. So I'm going to talk about a Medtronic device. So on the left is a Medtronic single chamber temporary pacemaker. And as you can see, this has like minimum functionality, and the cost of this device is $9,000, which is quite a lot by Indian rupees, but it is not as much as when you consider it in US dollars. And so the main differences is in the focus of the product placement. So the other products that are developed for the US markets and the international markets. So mostly they are, the expense of these devices are a lot more. And for example, when you talk about the technology development for many devices, for example, Medtronic, is that they have their own low power microcontrollers. And the one more other example in this field is that Abbott, which has successfully developed an leadless permanent pacemaker. So how are we different from them? So our main concentration when we were doing our market study is that we found pacemakers for the affordable price range are very important and very necessary. And so what we have done is, instead of using more hardware, we have converted many of the hardware analog circuits into digital circuits to reduce the cost of hardware, as well as to reduce the reliance on supply chain, and so we can increase the in-house capability. So our first focus is going to be in delivering low-cost devices to make healthcare more affordable. So how we build better pacemakers? As I said earlier, is that what we are trying to do is to reduce the hardware by replacing some of the filters and control circuits with their digital counterparts, and also to increase the reliance on software so that we can develop in-house capabilities. And so this also helps us in scaling up the devices if we need. As the other speakers before me had mentioned, that now the next technologies that are to come into the medical industry are going to be 5G and IoT and AI. So we want to be able to make it possible to integrate these technologies into pacemakers. So the advantages of our device is that even though our technology is not in par with the other pacemaker devices in the market, we are still able to develop devices which are high performing and high quality solution. And also one of the main important advantages is the cost of the device is decreased more than 80%, which is very crucial for the Indian markets. So the key competitors, I think this word is pretty wrong because I would say more alternative, as Mr. Venkatesh has pointed out. So I think the alternatives are that companies like Medtronic, which have more experience in the market and more financial support. Yeah, so the product roadmap, I'll just finish it pretty fast, is that we will be doing benchmark testing in February 2023, and then we will have to go through the human clinical trials in March 2023 and commercialize by the end of 2024. And so the next steps would be to collaborate and work with other IC and embedded development companies to scale up our device to introduce more advanced technologies, and also to invite external investments and grants. Thank you.
Thank you. So there will be no questions now. Yeah, then the next one is NU design automation.
what I want to talk about is this system design process. We're talking about an EDA company, and by the way, that wasn't me. So this is a company that spun out from my lab, and the CEO unfortunately couldn't make it because of some health issues in the family. So I want to talk about the system design, PCB design, if you call it, and well, this is not right. When I compare, let me build this all out because otherwise we're going to be waiting here for the 5 minutes. So the point of this slide is to say, the point of this slide is to talk about the shift in design that's happened in the last 40 years. So if you were thinking about designing a PCB in the 1980s, the chips themselves were quite simple. And in fact, I did design in the 1980s. And you were doing things like building bit slice processors. You were actually building function. And if you think about it, the major way that semiconductor companies communicated with systems companies was data sheets, reference designs, schematic capture, this physical design. Those were the things that were available. Today, what most system designers do is they're really taking complex semiconductor systems and programming them and assembling them in complicated and interesting ways. And in fact, their real system design process is I pick a vertical market that I'm in because that sets the constraints for what I need to have. I pick a software ecosystem I must participate in. I pick the communications that I need, and then I figure out how to fill in the next. And what's interesting is that the design tools available for doing that don't exist. In fact, we still have the design tools. Very complex system designs coming from the semiconductor companies are pushed through data sheets and on websites, okay? And this is despite the fact over these 40 years we've had Moore's Law, which has created much more complex devices, right? And so this is the key problem. And now if you're in the consumer business, you don't care so much because you have armies of people that are helping on both sides. But if you're in industrial, you're in defense, aerospace, you're in transportation, you have typically smaller system design teams. You have to deal with a wall of complexity, okay? And so this is a very important problem. The other thing is, beyond this, for those markets, which are the core markets that we're going after, the life cycle of the products is much longer. So what happens is that you have to plan for obsolescence, reliability, future function updates. Again, no support in the EDA space for any of that. So, again, this is painful. I want to point out, if you look at the system design process, there's this front-end piece, and this is just so you guys can understand it, which is true system design. This is where somebody's taking system function and mapping it to some key semiconductors. And then you kind of go into the kind of a piece that's what I'll call system plumbing, which is you got to put power, ground, a much smaller set of device selection, and then it goes into a traditional PCB design process. We work on this front end, which there's nothing available today. Okay, so this is a screenshot of the system, and as you can see, the way the system works is on the top right, you set constraints around the vertical markets you're in, the software ecosystem you want to participate in, and then we actually already have the AI/ML stacks that you want to work in. So the way a system designer thinks is, I want this vision system over there, I want this recognition capability over there, I want the Qualcomm capability over there. And that implies an AI stack, a software stack, and a chip stack, okay, all together. And those constraints have to be respected, right? Also, there are reference designs that the semiconductor companies spend enormous efforts building, which can be used as an accelerant to design, which is very difficult to do today. So that's all included in the system here. I don't have, of course, time to walk through this, but this is a product, it exists, and we are now currently going to market with it. Competitiveness. So, you might consider the fact that, who's out there. So I'm going to go to the bottom left, the current EDA companies. The current EDA companies largely are just in the physical layer. They have nothing in the systems layer, right? Somebody mentioned that there hasn't been a big EDA company recently. Actually, an example is this company, Altium. It's an Australian company. Became a multi-billion-dollar company very recently in the systems space. You have distributors, Arrow, Avnet, DigiKey, et cetera. They have typically search functionality that's available on their websites to look over part selection. But they really don't consider the software ecosystem, certainly the AI ecosystem. They're very much at the low level, chip electrical level. You have embedded software players. They're actually providing drivers in separate websites, which a system designer has to chase down, right? And then there's the PLM companies. They're actually a very important part of this process, but since they don't have the domain-specific connection, they're an aid, but they're not a competitor. So we sort of connect to all of these sort of pieces for the system designer stuff. Okay, so who are our customers and how are we going to market? So our customers are obviously system designers. And the way we get to them is through a PLM-like structure. So most of these companies that we're talking about have a large PLM installments, and we're talking about an add-on to that PLM desk seat. So that's one side. The other side is semiconductor companies. So if you're thinking about somebody like TI, has 40,000 chip SKUs. ADI these days, after Maxim, has about 70,000 chip SKUs. So when they pulled out the next chip, it's a huge, I mean, it's almost impossible for them to get it out in the market and show differentiation and all these sorts of things, because it's really put on a website and they're depending on Google to have it be discoverable. So these are our primary customers as well as our go-to-market. Okay, the team. So Satyam is the CEO. He's 40 years in the industry, many startups. He used to work for me at Cadence. These are everybody's in the U.S. except Anurag. I'm on the board. I actually run the research facility that this spun out of. We all have huge amount of experience with startups, spin-ins, spin-outs, raising money, all that sort of stuff. Again, so far we raised about $450K through a safe structure. That's to build the product. We're going to do another round where we build probably through a further safe structure, excuse me, raise another $1 million to $2 million. That will trigger some institutional investors to also invest in us that we're already in discussions with. And that's probably going to be it. We are very capital efficient. The EDA companies, unlike hardware companies, are very capital efficient. And based on that, we'll be able to roll things out. We have, there's a pipeline. The initial product came out in January. There's a pipeline of companies that we're actually engaged with, and we'll kind of have a target of about $1 million to close this year. By the way, relative to the company itself, I'm in the U.S., Fak, the head of engineering, is in the U.S., and CTO. Satyam, who's the CEO, splits his time between the U.S. and Chennai, and then our team is here, R&D team is here in Chennai.
Thank you. So the next one to go is Wasbeam Private Limited. Yeah. So if you want to use this mic and stand there.
Good afternoon all. This is Amit from Wasbeam. Our motto is to connect everything, everyone, anywhere. If you see the global space market, the basic trend is to get internet from the space. And LEO satellite is something which will take up the overall share of the global internet broadband. And why LEO? Because of the low latency use cases which we talked about, which enables a lot of 5G use cases, global coverage. And the important slide or important part of the slide is the percentage share of SATCOM various bands. So if you look at more than 65% of the internet broadband through the LEO satellite would happen till Ka band. Optical and Q band is something which are on the higher side. So what is the technology which enables most of the thing? It's the beamforming. Beamforming is, in a simplest term, it directs RF. And what we are making is the ISR, which is actively electronically steered array. That's our specialization. And what are the advantages of ISR? Beamforming and beam steering. It reduces the mechanical component in various radar and SATCOM applications. Multi-beam. You can do multiple search and track together. It's a low weight, reliable, and also electronic steering, which is possible. So if you see the overall architecture of transceiver in the 5G, SATCOM, radars, there are three basic components which are very important. Beamforming IC, LNAs, and the PAs. And what we feel is, and if you look at the phase array, it's an array by definition, which is a repetitive structure. What we feel is somebody who owns critical component of this phase array has a moat in overall phase array of 5G, SATCOM, or radars. So what do we have? So we have released out beamforming IC up to car band. So what is advantage VAS-beam? And I just want to bring back the second slide, where we say that more than 65% of the SATCOM would be until car band, and we have all the part numbers, all the beamforming ICs in each of the band, plus the alphabet or the frequency bands which are marked in red are sub 6 gigahertz 5G application, which can be catered by the VAS-beam ICs itself. So as I said, the critical advantage for us is to develop ISA, is the access to the beamforming IC at a production cost. So what do we have? Like, we have been very uniquely positioned to unlock the growth in SATCOM market, which is roughly around $1 billion market, 6G, somewhere around $6 billion, and military SATCOM, roughly around $900 million. So what we are looking at, to tell us, we have already secured government funding up to 4.5 crore through our various applications, as well as we also received a DOT grant to develop adaptive antenna system for the 5G backhaul. And we have a conditional PO from Indian Navy for $10 million in year 2, as well as which can go up to $42 million for year 4 in defense application. Who we are, again, the vision is to be able to connect everyone, everything, using advanced antenna system we can write lowest cost of ownership as well as attractive price point. How do we achieve it? We want to achieve full ownership of the critical components of adaptive antenna system, beamforming, LNAs and the PAs in-house. And the future for us is to manufacture this phase array within India. Before the team, myself and Dr. Solan, both of them, or even the founder, we have more than 60 years of experience, and they have past experience in Bosch, Teradyne, Rafael, IBM, Intel, various other government organizations. Journey so far, as I said, that we have been grantee for DCIS, DOT, for 5G area. We are also IDEX winner for ISR radar, as well as we have been given an award to develop an FMCW radar for proximity fuse. We are technological partner for another winner in the IDEX, which is ASIC-based communication, which is SATCOM on the move, and beamforming ASIC-based radar with massive MIMO technology. We have also have a good interaction with RCI, where our chips have been qualified, and we are under vendor registration. Hopefully we see a PO from RCI also. Thank you. And exactly, VAS-beam stands for Versatile Antenna System using beamforming technology.
Next one to go is Syrup Solutions.
Very good evening, everyone. My name is Gaurav, and I represent Syrup Solutions. At Syrup, we engineer trust for the Indian trucking industry. We are a DPIIT recognized startup funded by Intel and ONGC along with Sign IIT Mumbai. Now, what we do, we are developing a made in India product for the Indian trucking industry. 2 days back, when I came to this conference, looking at my product and looking at the products which I was seeing around, I felt a little belittled. 3 years back, I was developing a camera-based solution for the Indian trucks. It was supposed to detect if the driver was drunk, drowsy, he was smoking. After building it, spending around 9 to 10 months, when I took it to the Indian truck owners, they outrightly rejected me. It was a huge blow on my face, and it took some time for me to get up from that. Post that, I decided to do this survey this time. And during the survey, what came out was that the Indian truck owners were facing a big problem of diesel theft. It was not that the solution wasn't there. Solution was there, but these were mostly imported from China. Now, once these solutions were given to the truck owners, after 2 or 3 months, it stops working, and then the distributors are not even picking up the phone. That was the time when we thought, if we are supposed to provide a long-term solution, then it is the control of the hardware, firmware, and software has to be with us. Then we took a call that we will be developing this solution entirely here in India. So our solution comprises of tracking as well as diesel theft. This is an all industrial grade component what we use. This uses an ultrasonic concept. So we have manufactured the sensor as well here in India. We paste this sensor at the bottom of the diesel tank, and then we attach an analog front end on top of it. We collect the data and send it using a 2G communication module to our server, where the AI model is built, and this ML model essentially is designed to be trained for each and every truck model. The trucks have different type of tanks, cylindrical, cuboid. Some of the machines, in fact, have L-shaped tanks as well. So the system is supposed to work on all of them, and that's where our ML algorithm chips in. On top of it, the expectation from the customers is that the diesel theft accuracy should be high, because when the truck is going on a tilt, the volumes tend to change, but they are not changing. So we need to take care of that, and that is where our AI ML algorithm comes into picture. So this is the typical architecture wherein we have put the ultrasonic sensor at the bottom of the diesel tank. Currently, we have done this testing of the sensor in the lab, and we have deployed it as well in the field. We have put it across on diesel tanks of cylindrical shape, cuboid shape, also on excavator machines. Principally, it looks very simple that if it is working on one tank, it should work on all other tanks. But when we started to analyze the diesel tanks, the thicknesses were very different. And the analog front end also needed to be monitored, changed accordingly. So it was a very interesting exercise which my team was able to maneuver. So these are few tanks on which we have deployed. We completed our pilots last month, and till date we have received orders for around 35 devices, which will be starting to honor right now. So one of the major differentiators of this device, along with the post-sale services, there is no need to drill the diesel tank. This way we ensure that the warranty of the diesel tank is not nullified. Additionally, the traditional sensors, they have a drill-based mechanism wherein it takes around 5 to 6 hours to make one installation. We are able to do more than 5 to 6 installations in a day, thereby saving the truck owner's time. Thank you very much.
The next one to go is Rapture Innovations Lab.
Hello and good evening everyone. My name is Navajit. I'm the co-founder of Rapture Innovations. At Rapture, we provide an ever-before audio experience in headphones by enabling people to not just hear music, but for the first time feel it using our patented technology. Our vision is to be a brand of choice globally for people seeking blissful and immersive audio experience, and we have been rated to deliver an improved audio experience compared to the top leading global brands by international tech review sites. Primarily to talk about the opportunity or the unmet needs, if you look at music or audio in general, we don't just hear it, but we can also feel it through our body. The best experience is watching movies in a theater, or even being part of a music concert, or listening to drums or dolls being played live in front of you. You don't just hear it, you can feel the thump or the rumble in your body, in your chest. The other part is music as a construct, it has a wide audio spectrum, and it's very important to reproduce each of them effectively to give a high fidelity audio experience. Now, if you look at the reproduction of audio, loudspeakers are considered to be an ideal audio reproduction device because they have like dedicated audio drivers for each of the audio bands. And then they have something called a subwoofer, which reproduces the low frequency part, which is between 20 hertz to 120 hertz. And that's what makes you feel the sound. Now, if you take any headphones in the market, they make use of a conventional air conduction driver, which converts audio signal into sound waves and transfers it to your ears. So that's how you just hear the sound, but you cannot feel it through your body. So what we have developed is a patented technology. It's patent granted in India. It's in process in 26 other countries, wherein we combine 3 principles. We combine air conduction along with bone and skin conduction principles, wherein part of the sound, which is the vocals and instruments, primarily the mid and high frequency, is transferred to your ears like a regular headphone. But the other part, which is the low frequency, is transferred through our proprietary driver through the ear pads to your skin and your bone. So when you wear and listen to the headphones, you don't just hear it, you can also feel it. And with this, we can provide 3 improvements in the way we reproduce sound. One is we achieve very high fidelity of audio experience, and we have successfully benchmarked it against global premium brands. Second, it's more immersive. It's as if you're there in the concert or in the theater. So that's kind of immersive sound that we provide. And third part is you can personalize the headphone based on the use cases. So there's a dedicated mode for calls and meetings. There's a dedicated mode for movies and gaming. And based on the genre of music you're listening to, you can personalize it. And we also have a smartphone app which does a quick 2-minute hearing test of your hearing sensitivity, and then it personalizes headphone based on your hearing pattern. So these are some of the snapshots of the tech reviews that we have received. Currently, if you've looked at the over-ear headphone market, it's a $3.9 billion market, projected to reach $11 billion in 2027. And primarily, we are looking at capturing a $75 million market out of it in the next 5 years. So to talk about the team, so myself and Jagat, we met each other during our BTech days back in 2013. In about 8 years, we worked together. We developed solutions for automotive and medtech companies. And while working on it, we were actually developing a helmet for communication. And we were exploring alternate way of reproducing sound by bypassing the ears. And that's how we ended up developing the technology. And just like a typical engineer, over a weekend, we both are very passionate about music and audio gears. Over a weekend, we had a headphone on a work table, and just out of curiosity, we decided to integrate the tech to a headphone. And that was like the eureka moment, wherein we found a significant improvement in the audio quality and the experience. And that's how, in 2019, we started this. It took us around 2 years to develop it. We right now have seed investors and advisors who are like former senior directors at Bose, and you also have investors and advisors from Google, Qualcomm, Texas Instruments. And we are supported by T-Hub, Ministry of Electronics and Technology, DST, as well as IT Bombay. We launched our product in just a couple of months back in mid of November 2022. So far, we have received 450 orders, roughly from 25 countries, generating 70 lakhs in revenue. And primarily, it's been through the tech reviews that we have received. And we project to generate a revenue of 7 CR in the next 6 months, and then scale it to 60 crores of revenue in the next financial year. So primarily, we are targeting millennials to Gen X, people who use high-end headphones and who use headphones for not just leisure but also for work. And in terms of the roadmap, so right now we are in the field of headphones. We are developing technology to provide immersive audio experience for the VR and AR headsets, as well as develop technologies that helps improve experience in loudspeakers as well. So this is something that we have in development in pipeline. And so far we have raised a pre-seed round of 2 CR by a set of individuals and angel investors. And for scaling, we are looking to raise a pre-series round of 25 CR. That will help us to sell 40,000 units of our headphones and generate a revenue of 60 crores. So that's about Rapture and brief about what we do. Thanks a lot for your time.
Yeah, the next one to go is Vanix.
Hello, myself is Dr. Ashwin Rana and my colleague is Dr. Mandhatya Singh. So I'll tell you a short story why we founded the Vanix in that way. Basically, once I was working on my research lab and I was working on electrical vehicles applications, and we are working on some controllers kind of things. So basically we stuck, and then we found out that all the controllers which exactly supplied by the peoples or different giants, that's are simply crap. So we come up with the solutions for the power electronics applications where you can simply customize one IC and it can fit into the numerous applications for R&D as well as for the industries. So basically we come up with the solutions of all the power electronics applications like electrical vehicles, inverter, converters and all these things. And suddenly I went to the Mandhatya and he said that I also want to work on this. So he was working on AI and ML solution on the surveillance basically. So how you can put everything not on the cloud as well on the board itself. So there we come up with the solution with the surveillance. So basically we are working in the two domains, power electronics domains and as well as on the surveillance domains. So basically, when we think about these kind of industries, when we are talking about defense, electrical vehicles, communication, solar, so all having the same problems that the customized controllers, how you can give that. Okay, so we are very specialized, not in the software part, but we actually designing the complete hardware part as per the industry needs also. So what's the problems the industry is facing? Obviously, first the lack of customizations they required. So this is the one problem. The second is very costly and R&D solutions they have, and the third is the non-availability of the service. So Vanix is solving these three problems. Simply Yeah, Vanix is solving these three problems. Simply, we having the FPGA controllers that can fit into the numerous applications, and we are supporting from hardware to software solutions. So these are the first board of series that is called Bhatta series. So this is basically the controller board of the product that can fit into any application of power electronics. You can name it as a solar or inverter converters or EV chargers or the battery management system. So take this board and you directly can use this board. If you need any customization, it just take us 2 days to customize the hardware also, because we design the board in such a way that it can be done over this. So yeah, so these are some of the boards that exactly we already developed and we are supplying this.
Apart from that, two product lines we are working on. First is shoplifting. So shoplifting has been a problem in retail supermarkets. So we have developed custom AI models as well as OCR models through which we can detect the shoplifting. So we are soon releasing that particular thing. And apart from that, one product line which we are working on and will be releasing soon is for ANPR, that is automatic number plate recognition. So our ANPR, the two key pointers we can say is the first, it supports multilingual, it supports also Telugu, Hindi, English and multiple other languages. And also the more prime important thing is that that particular ANPR solution, we are able to run it on the board itself. We are using a hybrid solution. Like we are using cloud for storage, but our customized OCR solution is also able to run on the board itself. That's a very, the solution which is not available in the current market.
Yeah, so the next is why us, because we are working on the multi-domain factors, but basically we are targeting the power electronics application and the surveillance systems where we can put the AI/MLs, customize IPs on the hardware also. So we are customizing the hardware as well as the software also. This is our journey. Actually, we founded in 2021 basically, and our first prototype is ready in 2022. On September's, we actually secured first orders, and December 2022, within 3 months, we secured more than 3 million orders in INR. Basically, this is the market size, and this is what we can achieve. This is the key revenue model. So basically, we are pure customizations. Along with that, we having the recurring models where we are actually working on very advanced applications like data acquisitions, drone application, and obviously the camera surveillance. So our revenue model is mainly from industry and R&D labs. So this is the revenue projections for the future. This is what since we launched our first product on August 2022. So we having the customers from all over the industries as well as all IITs, NITs, R&D labs. They also, with us. This is our team basically. So we 3 members done his PhD from IIT, along with the Dr. Ravi Teja is there, and these 2 members are from the industries, those who along with us.
I request everyone, if you have time, please visit stall number 56 for seeing our demo. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, the next one to go is Lightspeed Photonics.
A very good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Rohin Y. I'll talk about why we do what we do. I'll just let it be. I just wanted to talk about the amount of data bandwidth consumption that is increasing, and the real-time application need is something that almost everybody is aware of, whether it is from YouTube, Netflix, or the future applications of 5G or AR, VR. But all the data bandwidth, behind the scenes, what is happening is something that most of us are not aware of. So if you see a cartoon of how these systems are built, whether it's a motherboard or a network interface card, essentially they are connected with the pluggable optical transceivers like this. They're like glorified versions of a USB cable, if you might. With the fiber optic cable sticking out, you have basically that sitting next to, essentially the overall system cost increasing is only one tiny aspect of the whole problem, but with a huge amount of bandwidth that it needs to cater to, it's simply not scalable. So how do you get data in and out of these chips so efficiently in order to cater to the future requirements? So what we do at Lightspeed is to, first of all, bring this interconnect right into the chip without any cables. So we get data directly into the chips using lasers, and what we built first is a 200 Gbps free space optical interconnect that you can use as a co-packaged optics directly embedded into the chip. So the first prototype that we completed is capable of less than 3 picojoule per bit, which is 10 times better, 10 times compact, and enables systems of up to 40 times performance per watt. I let those numbers sink in. And not just it is a low-cost solution, but not having cables means it's a lot less mess. Effectively, if you see a system like this, immediately a question comes, what's your mission? How you plan to take this component into something that is much more scalable? So first of all, the whole process of taking a component to the market as a subsystem is to create a demonstratable, okay, I don't see the video playing, but you can see the chip, the compute and interconnect together as a packaged solution that scales as a Lego. If I had the video working, could you try it from there, please? You can click there. Effectively, this whole system of Legos scales up so that you have a huge distributed computing system that is essentially in a very small form factor. So what is otherwise a huge multiple server racks becomes a small server blade with a scalable system of Legos. And the free space optical interconnectivity is the key enabler for something like this. The opportunity, whether it is in cybersecurity where the real-time packet processing needs, or AI, high-performance computing applications, or 5G, the immediate target addressable markets are more towards the growing markets of smart network interface cards and the optical interconnects. And a serviceable market of 100 million to 500 million is very much achievable depending on how well the market pulls the value out of the technology we are building. And as a first step, if you look at the huge amount of investment that has already gone into silicon photonics, is where we create a unique opportunity where we don't have to do the software rewrites that are required or the modifications to the chip. Any system designer will tell you that just to incorporate their new hardware, they will have to rewrite the entire software stack is a huge pain. So the things that we did is to make it entirely compatible with the legacy interconnects while keeping a very small form factor and low power. And bringing compute and interconnect together in a scalable and a standard sustainable model means it's very short time to market. An effort like this requires really a collaborative inspiration that we need to be able to onboard a lot of partners, and that is something that we have been able to do in the last 2 years. We are closely working with the likes of Intel, Xilinx, and A-Star, Mosaic Microsystems, Kyocera. All these partners are helping us do what we call as the heterogeneous integration, make the beyond Moore's law computing that we are building truly possible. And it's not just us saying, like the recent testimony from Intel calling us a fundamental technology disruption and how we are pioneering these technologies with something very minimal. So like I was saying that the business model is to take the components and subsystems to the market as the product. So our engineering samples for the interconnect will be ready by Q3, Q4 this year. And next year we are targeting the compute plus interconnect with the Intel FPGAs to enable a compact distributed computing system. And for us to take this to the market is through work through the development and channel partners towards the customers. We are an interdisciplinary team. My co-founder comes with about 30 years of experience in electronic photonic integration, specifically pioneering some of the key aspects of the core heterogeneous integration technologies that we have built. Of the 11 patents that we have filed, we have already 2 patents granted. Now we are joined by about 20 people, and now we have advisors of the likes of Dr. Mahadevan Iyer and Dr. Ashwini Agarwal and Mekawa-san from Kyocera. I am a second-time entrepreneur. I've built an electronics R&D company before this, and my PhD I got more into the high-performance computing algorithms. And when I got introduced to the heterogeneous integration, we understood the techno-commercial aspects together, and that's how we grew from there. We raised $600,000 US, and just in 2 years, we completed the prototype, and we are now ready to go for engineering samples. We are currently raising, we're closing 2 million already, and we are raising 3 million more on a safe note. That is mainly to get to a definite pilot scope with one of our development partners right now. This is an ambitious dream, and our mission is to enable at least 10 times more bandwidth processing capabilities than what the current systems are even capable of. And we have a huge mission of bringing light to the computing world. please come join us at the booth of, we are supported by the Telangana Photonics Valley Corporation, and we are there. Please come and see our demo. Thank you so much.
Next one to go is Answer Robotics. We have 5 more startup pitch to go on. The next one is Answer Robotics.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Raghu Venkatesh. I'm co-founder of Answer Robotics. We build autonomous mobile robots, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. And hope I'm audible enough. Yes, so how many of you have ordered something on Amazon and it has been delivered in like less than 24 hours? Can you raise your hand? And have you wondered why when you place an order in Amazon, it gets delivered in a very short period of time? The reason is because Amazon uses robots in their warehouses to automate material movement. And this is the reason why Amazon is the fastest growing company when it comes to logistics. Even companies like DHL or FedEx, who are the market leaders, can't still deliver your package in less than 24 hours. But Amazon can do. The reason is robots. So we enable other companies who are in a very similar industry to have this robot so they can also offer to their customer more reliably and safely. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So what we do at Answer Robotics, so one of our vision is that like we Indians innovate around the world, but India is not innovating. Like there's not one product if you talk about that we can relate back to India, but we can relate back to people of India. So as our vision is that we believe that future is robotics, and we want to build the most cutting edge robot and put India in the world map of innovation. So that's what we are trying to do over here. So we are building mobile robots for the world made in India. And these are our like implemented robots which are being used in factories and warehouses. And we have built a modular technology which allows you to change spec of robots as you go on. So every business has different type of robot use cases, and we can customize it as you need. So that's the proprietary of our technology. And the reason why we are doing is that today everyone is talking about India is going to be the next hub of manufacturing. If you're going to build manufacturing hubs or warehouses to simplify logistics, you need to use cutting edge technology. But most of the cutting edge technology doesn't come from India. So that is what we are trying to do. We are trying to build world-class products for the Indian customers at Indian price so that small and medium enterprise companies can afford to use robots in their facilities to increase productivity. And the most use cases today people use is on material transportation, and that is where we are focused. And also we give our technology to other people to build their own use cases. So one of our mission is to democratize robots for all. Can we give you tools to build? And I'll tell you how we do that. So this is our solution, like a single modular platform, and it can be whatever use case, our platform will support that. And second, these are our 3 flagship products. We can do payload from all the way from 250 kgs to 1.25 tons. And this is what makes our product very unique. We call this the answer engine. So when you look at robots, they're just like your EV cars. If I give you an example of combustible cars, like if you look at any car manufacturer, all their parts comes from OEMs. They just assemble and manufacture. The value proposition, what they bring is the engine. Any car company which owns the best engine is the market leader. But when EV technology came in, it changed completely the landscape. It was not only more about engine, it was software and hardware. If you look at Tesla, what makes Tesla great is not the car, it's the software which runs the car. Same thing goes with robots. Today, only very niche people who have the experience of mechatronics can build robots. But software engineers like me and others, even though we have the skill set, but we cannot build because of lack of experience and access to hardware knowledge. So we built this proprietary technology called Answer Engine. Using this, you can build any type of robot you want. You don't need to worry about power distribution, power management, connectivity, I/O, or even the autonomy. We even give you autonomy at API level. So all you have to just focus is building a use case on robots. So this is the biggest value proposition we give to market. And the way we go is that one of the reasons we spent a lot of time convincing people to try our technology. When people buy robots, they use it in critical operations. They don't want to work with startups. They want to work with companies which have been established for a very long time. So we realized that people are not trying our product. So we came up with this business model called Robot as a Service, which we learned from Software as a Service, where we remove all this crunch of doing installation, giving plans, implementation, integration. We go to them and say, you know what, we have the product here. We can just integrate your solution within 1 or 2 days, and by within 2 weeks' time, our product is live on a factory floor. So that is the proposition we bring compared to our competitors. So these are the customers who have tried our products. We've been working with them for the last 1 year. And we have done a revenue of 1.85 crores in the last 2 quarters. And we started way back in 2020 when, in middle of pandemic, we couldn't even import a screwdriver from China because of the economical relations between India and China. We were stranded, quit our jobs. We were working on this tech. We didn't know what to do. And that's when we had make it or break it moment. We indigenously found how to work with local partners and build world-class products. Today, our robots are completely designed, fabricated, manufactured, made in India. And it's part to the top #1 robotics company in the world. And we started in July 2020. We sold our first robot to an American company. And later on, we scaled our operations. And today, we are working with very large companies. And today, we have finished product validation. And now we are looking to scale our operations to fulfill orders. And these are our partners. We have Barcore India, who has like more than 2,000 customers based in India, and they sell the most reliable and efficient products. And for Industry 4.0, they've chosen to work with Answer Robotics. Then we have Mac and Machines, comes with a high experience of doing implementation of autonomous projects. Then also we are an NVIDIA partner company where NVIDIA is giving tools and knowledge on reference designs, how we can build more efficient boards for robots. And also sustainability is very important. So we didn't know that every component we picked is a very sustainable product. So recently we were approached by WHO and they run a program called Tech to Impact. So we are a very sustainable, every product line we build is very sustainable. Like 95% of the components can be recycled. And this is our projection. So the first year, we thought we will be selling around 38 robots, but first year we have clocked more than 100% of it. We'll be shipping, this year we'll be shipping around 100 robots. And next year we'll be shipping around 200 robots. This slide is not updated, but we have almost come close to a second year of assumptions. And we are seeking to raise $1 million in funding. We have done market validation, customer validation, product fit, everything. Right now, we are looking to raise money to set up a manufacturing plant and start fulfilling orders. So if you're interested, please swing by. And we're a team of 4 co-founders, started passionately to build robots for the world. And today, we have got an extensive team with a lot of people from experience from different verticals and backgrounds, and grown up to a team of 35 people plus. So we have all the knowledge, experience to make best robots in the world. All we're looking is to help to scale our product, not to invest in R&D, but to scale our product. And thank you. If you have anything, you can scan this QR code and it'll directly connect to me. Thank you.
The next one to go is AMP HICC Private Limited.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Prometheus Lasmapatra from AMPIC Private Limited. So to start off with AMPIC and telling you a bit more about us, I'll start off with the philosophy behind it, our ideology behind it as well. What we do at AMPIC is that our belief is to look into new paradigms. So we don't want to enter into a market where there are big players with 15, 20 years of experience, then try to make up for that gap and come up with something new. We are looking into new paradigms, which has, of course, started off from the beyond Moore's law kind of a scenario, especially from computing in the context of photonics, integrated circuits for computing itself, extending into quantum computing as well and quantum communications. As you might know already, the physics behind this, it's relying on quantum entanglement. Looking into other applications as well, so datacom, telecom, 5G, for example, to meet the demands that we have coming across from big data. And for these, the KPIs that we always keep in mind when we are developing our products start from miniaturizing. So form factor is something we give a lot of importance to, along with the cost factor as well. Of course, from initial prototyping till the final product development with the economy of scales, your cost scale down quite a bit. That's something we are looking into as well, with the reliability and the speed and power consumption, so the overall performance of the devices and the products that we have to offer. And surprise, surprise, the solution that we have to offer is completely based on photonic integration. So the difference from photonics or optoelectronics that you might be more familiar with is that we are not talking about discrete bulk components. It's really an IC-based solution which does your entirety of the functionality. And photonics is often kind of confused with optics. So Just to distinguish that fact, I would like to highlight that the photonics, the name comes from photons and electronics. So it's a combination of both the worlds where we synergize the best of both to actually get our products up and running. What we do in regards to photonic integrated circuits is that we work throughout the chain itself. So we work with different kind of passive, active elements itself across material platforms, because each material platforms presents its own pros and cons. So depending on the application, we choose the best which would fit into what is required, and look into hybrid integration as well, which was, I think, something touched upon by Lightspeed, where you're looking into combination of different materials. I mean, why not? If you have different advantages coming across from each material set, try to use the best of both, combine them together to get the best out of your final product. Talking about the market, this is something we were suggested at the beginning as well by the keynote speakers. So the market right now is in the order of billions. It's expected to rise to around 52 billion in 2027, with a CAGR of approximately 22%, covering several aspects and several domains, mainly around quantum communication and computing, telecom, astrocommunication, so communication between satellite and the surface as well. There are quite a few companies which have started off, some recently moving into IPO, startups as well. We are the first and only company, to the best of our knowledge, who work on photonic integrated circuits in India. And of course, our competitive advantage comes from what we have to offer. We do the entirety of the chain of the product development, meaning we start from the design itself, talking into validation, packaging, large-scale manufacturing. So the full product development reaching cycles of around and levels of around TRL level 7 or 8. Finally, then having our customers with the delivery of the products themselves. Our business model, we work on contract-based projects, so meaning we do a customer-driven projects. So the first project we started off in the middle of last year was based on quantum communication, which is a secure means of communicating over the 100, 200 kilometer kind of a range. It's customer-driven, which means we also have support from them, meaning financial support. We have pre-orders from them in the order of around 10 million USD for the next 3 years. We have a new project starting off, which is related to photonic processing, which then fits into the final domain of quantum computing as well. We do the R&D development, design, everything in-house. Of course, we are fabless, so our fabrications are done in our fabrication partner. Same thing for the packaging itself, where we come up with the schema and they do the final physical execution. A very important thing to mention in this regard is that we have MOUs, because especially we have years of experience working with European and Asian partners. We have MOUs with them, and we have export licenses as well agreed upon with them. What that helps us is, especially if you're talking about domains like quantum communication, where there is military applications, interest from the army and defense and so on, interlinking between the governments becomes an important issue, but otherwise doing the production there can be a showstopper. So we have those agreements in place, which place us in a very unique position, whereby whenever we have projects coming in, we can immediately go for the design and execution phase of the product. I think that adds a lot of value to the entire chain itself. To talk a bit more about the team and the company, it's early stage startup. We are less than a year old. We have 10 employees, 8 of whom have PhDs, several advisors. Most of them have been working for decades in photonic integration, mainly around Europe. And we are well connected with academia and R&D. We are doing several new use cases as well. As I mentioned before, it's customer driven, so we do the use cases, approach industrial partners, see the interest in them, have pre-orders from them, and only then we actually start working on them to kind of back our ideas with the actual interest from the customer front as well. And before thanking all of you, just wanted to mention, we always appreciate a conversation, whether you just want to know about more on photonic integration or you're really interested, be it in investing. We are also looking for pre-Series A investments of around 2 million USD, or just want to collaborate on different ideas and projects. So feel free to reach out anytime, and thank you.
So the next one to go is Sumedha IT.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ashwant from Sumedha IT. So basically, we are into VLSI upscaling. So we recently launched a program called Symbiotech. It's a flagship program. Symbiotech program is all about launching, establishing semicon innovation cells right into the academia. We are totally into EdTech. So these are flagship program which is aiming to make every student to design a product or a project. So we all are hearing this phrase like product or projects, but like we have never restrained doing something like this. So our flagship program is actually making a point, every student should start doing a product or a project. It's not that easy to have a product doing at the time of academics itself. The academic infra, I mean like we have to accept the hard reality here. Industry's expectations are this and academia's infrastructure is this. So we are actually coming up with new program, this Symbiotic, where it's a synergism of corporate standard tools with corporate mentoring even. I mean like active industry mentoring even. We have 100+ active industry mentors who can support us to set up the tools inside the academia and like to guide the students even. So the whole point is, as I said before, like we wanted to have more more engineers coming doing products more than projects. Okay, so here the point is we want to make chip tape out by students itself, where we already have all our tools set up, 24/7 tool access right on the cloud. While we are referring to innovation cells, we have mentors supporting them. And the other one is VLSI 360 curriculum. It's much more aligned to the company's requirement. So industry aligned curriculum is one dynamic thing what we have is as a backup, I mean like backbone and backup of anything. And the second thing is 24/7 tool access. Any student wants to do innovate, research, R&D, upskilling, anything, they have everything in hand with us. And the next one is target market. Here I'm actually capturing the market size, TAM, everything here. So the product is the companies and the academia. So for the companies, we are someone who can, we have 2,000+ global alumni who got placed in all over India even. You can reach out to any of the company with an alumni. The first and best thing is about the quality pool of engineering is best thing that we do. And the other thing is company aligned projects. We have few programs like corporate dive-in, corporate alliance program and many. So through those, we actually aligned our curriculum to the company's requirement. So whatever the company is expecting, if you are expecting this sort of engineers with these sort of skills, we are up for that. We have a very dynamic curriculum where we can actually align it to your requirement. So that, I mean like we are a good focal point for the corporates. On the other hand, academia, this is a very big market, huge market we have to hit on because like the skill gap is very high. We all are facing this issue while hiring the people even. So we wanted to accumulate like the whole semicon R&D system right into the campus itself. On the other ground, like the visibility or the limelight of core companies coming to any tier 2, tier 3 colleges is very less. And like to be honest, it's abolished even. I mean like the limelight was never there, not even a light on them. So we wanted to get more people coming to tier 2, tier 3 colleges by accumulating more of semicon R&D system, ecosystem into the colleges even. We're actually tapping untapped market which is into tier 2, tier 3 and which is who doesn't have any access to the actual industry infra even. So these are the go-to marketing strategies. I mean like more of the actions are like we wanted to start. The first thing about being in academic and like making them realize that they are not up to the industry standard is a tough thing for us. So we wanted to plan many seminars, conferences in the prime places of Telangana, I mean like AP, Karnataka and all down Telugu states. And then through that, we wanted to give an understanding like what are they missing out on, what is this VLSI is all into, what is this semiconductor is going to do right now, and what are we doing as of. And the other thing, we don't want to eat much of students' time. I mean like it's more of, we actually saw the gap, we actually did few pilot runs even. So there we actually saw this gap telling like students doesn't have time out of academia, time out of doing these things. So we are much concentrated on swapping their tools with the industry standard tools and training them are doing R&D through their mini and major projects. And the last one is the government collaborations. There are many initiatives happening from the government even. So we spoke to many of the governments even. Thereby, government itself will implant, this is what the industry is needed into the colleges itself. And the program execution, so I mean like we are all equipped with the expert faculty and we have many things like job readiness skills and all these things. I mean like while coming to the core experts, they are not too much into social skills and all. But like these days, the industry is expecting everyone to be socially active and like who has to have very good at communication and showing up what they are into. Yeah, our team is, I mean, like the brain behind the work is Ravi Chakka. So he's the one who actually did all these visionary things of having Symbiotic into academia. And the other one, Ramsir Kodan Ramarao, he's one of the director of, I mean, like he's the director of VLSI. He's the one who transformed 2,000 plus budding engineers to VLSI experts. He actually made every student to understand, believe there is a huge market out for you. And he actually made all the students, I mean, like in Sumedha IT, we all believe in experiential learning. So, on the top of all these things, we have Managing Director Jyoti, ma'am. So that the things are like, so she is the one who takes care of every student in the campus and like well-being of every employee, the new empowering opportunities, what's happening in the industry and all. So, I mean, like in one shot, the outline of Sumedha IT is directly of telling our main aim is to retain most of the electronic graduates to their core careers rather than diversifying into IT and all.
So we have time for one more startup. I think Machineware guys are here.
Hello everyone. So we are Machineware and we are a startup from Germany working in RISC-V simulations. Virtual prototyping has become one of the most important tools in industry nowadays, where you have a digital twin of the actual system that you want to engineer before. And virtual platforms is the term in EDA industry that is referred to full system simulators, so simulators that can run your whole system with devices, with sensors, and the main CPUs inside. It's a really important tool with the ever-rising hardware and software complexity to have these tools available. And the advantages over physical prototypes are quite clear, I hope, because they are available earlier. So this is what we call a shift-left methodology, where you can simulate your system before it is actually available. It has higher flexibility with deeper inspection options. You have non-intrusive debugging, where you can really just stop the whole system and run the debugging stack. And finally, it's also more scalable than running a real system, because you can just hire more resources from the cloud and then it's working. And the example, I mean, we're from Germany, we have to do something with cars, right? So the most prominent example for digital twins in our target markets are cars where you want to just replicate the whole system of your car, including all sensors, to test your car before you have manufactured it. So what are the challenges for virtual platforms? So the first and most daring challenge is insufficient performance. So usually these systems, as you can imagine, are very complex. So in simulations, they run very, very slow, so slow that you sometimes can't really evaluate the system, and this is something we really have to overcome. The second issue is the high complexity. So you have very many different components, but they have to interact with each other, and this makes the system design very complicated. And then this is additionally tempered by limited vendor interoperability. So there are no standards in industry that allow you to just click away your systems with a unified interface, and this limits your ability to run these systems. So to summarize, the limiting factors are: first, that we need a modern simulation infrastructure which is fast. Second, we need efficient standardization so that we can plug in different components. And finally, we need really fast models, especially for the CPUs. And this is where Machineware comes into play. So we are targeting the RISC-V ecosystem. I think you all know that this is one of the fastest growing ecosystems in our market currently. It is an open standard instruction set architecture, which has the huge advantage that you don't have to pay any license fees to other companies. So many people are using it, and as you can see, there's like 62 billion RISC-V cores operating in 2025, so you see it's a really huge market with over 1 billion market that you can address. And it's a very fast-moving market, so I think now you see why you need these digital twins, because if you want to understand your product before it is at the market in such a fast-moving pace, you need simulators to verify your ideas. And this is where our core product comes into play. So Machineware has invented Sim5. Sim5 is a fast functional RISC-V simulator. You can use it for software verification. So it's not there to optimize your architecture of your RISC-V core, but to evaluate your software in a whole system before you have the actual chip available. It is 2.5x faster than state-of-the-art, and thus allows you a real left shift operation. So you can build better software faster, earlier in the development process. And we think that SIM5 is one of the easiest to use and easiest to integrate simulators in the market because it is focusing on standard interfaces built on System C. So this is Machineware. The company has been founded in 2022 and had customers from day one, which makes us really proud. We are headquartered in Aachen, Germany, which is very nicely co-located with one of the largest technical universities in Germany. And basically, from the founding team, it allocates decades of experience in this field. So Professor Leupers, the co-founder, is very well known in simulation technology, and Jan and Lukas are both having industry experience in building these tools. And yeah, in general, reach out to us if you're interested in the product. We are not looking for investment currently. We are well funded. What we are looking for are partners from the RISC-V community who want to understand how to build software inside the systems and want to use these tools and yeah, make them available to their customers. Thank you.
So now we are already closer to 5 p.m. I think B Square, we have an opportunity to interact with the jury members here after the session. Yeah, thank you. So now what we'll do is we'll just have jury needs some time to, few minutes to go through the metrics. We'll have 10 minutes. It's not a break. If you want to grab some coffee and water, yeah, 5 minutes. So we'll announce the. Okay. So while the juries are deliberating, I would like to call upon all the startups who pitched for a photo on the stage, please.